How well and how much has Automobilista 2 progressed since its early days? Find out right here, right now. Greetings Romies and welcome to RomRom.net, the channel sharing the joy of sim racing, and to a regular review of sims, racing games and whatever could interest you. Welcome to the channel, thanks for stopping by. My name is Serta and I will be your host for this video. Programmed by Brazilian company Reza, Automobilista 2 started life with the codebase and the gaming engine that had powered Project Cars 2. That made many skeptical, as Project Cars 2 delivered much less in terms of being a sim than was promised, and nobody knew if the engine would be good enough. Reza had a good track record though, so on the other hand, many others were hopeful. Who was right? The skeptics, the hopefuls, both? Let's find out. The physics in Automobilista 2 are quite good, and the force feedback on your wheel is going to be good too, unless you are unlucky. Though one by one the glitches in the force feedback have been eliminated, there are still reports of it not being quite there. Luckily for most of us, these reports have become scarce. From my own experience, the force feedback is incredibly good on my direct drive system, supported by physics that are sometimes so detailed as to simulate the crankshaft to make everything realistic. This sim is made by people crazy about details. The graphics are getting better every time, and in every update there is a large enough section of graphical updates. The style of the graphics is more on the gamey side than Assetto Corsa Competizione, for example, but still quite good. The virtual reality support is excellent and works like a charm, as it did in Project Cars 2. In the time since Automobilista 2 came out, there's been some mods released for it. Some are incredibly good, like the one you can see right now. Sadly, and as was the case with Project Cars 2, there's only vehicle mods, and we don't expect to ever see track mods. And the number of mods for Automobilista 2 is low. Even so, we can say that many of the mods we've tested are excellent and expand our enjoyment of this sim. Automobilista 2 is actively being developed, and it gets a new update round about once a month. The update release notes are quite long and show a will to extract as much as possible out of the game engine and to expand its limits as much as possible. It's impressive what an independent studio can do with such a codebase, so I'd say this one goes to the hopefuls. Automobilista 2 supports different and dynamic weather conditions, and now even historic weather and real-time weather. No matter which track you choose and no matter what time, you can race on the most realistic weather conditions a sim has to offer at the moment. The sim has a day and night cycle and supports multiplayer, but the multiplayer abilities are a long way to go yet. This fact may be the reason why the community of Automobilista 2 racers is limited, but as far as we can see, growing slowly but steadily. With support from sites like Just Race, setting up a server is very easy, and more drivers find themselves racing against each other on Automobilista 2. There's still a lot of room for growth though. The pricing is quite acceptable. The base sim costs around €40. There's a season pass valid until the end of this year that adds a hefty €90 USD to the bill, and the 5 track DLCs cost €9 each, which we consider a fair price for them, especially if you consider you're not only getting one track, but also historical versions of the same track. Reza also sells the tracks as packs, and last year they started with a series of DLCs called Racing USA, which will end up comprising 4 DLCs, while only 3 were planned. The 4th will come free of cost to those who bought a Racing USA pack or have the season pass. The DLCs include cars and tracks from US Motorsports, and the 3rd DLC, which is not out yet, will be concentrated on oval racing. Automobilista 2 supports very diverse types of vehicles, including truck racing, karts, open-wheelers, touring cars and prototypes. Quite the choice, but still no stadium super tracks, which were part of Automobilista 1. And one point Reza should correct is that often enough you only have access to one car in series that are comprised of more than one make. We understand it to be an issue with licensing, and Reza have made clear they are working incessantly to get all needed licenses. But but be aware that while Automobilista 2 may have your favorite series in the roster, that doesn't mean they have all the cars in that series. While Automobilista 2 has a 24-hour cycle and, as we said, dynamic and real-time weather, the possibility of driver swaps is nowhere to be seen, sadly. Therefore, we cannot really say it's ready for endurance races, but Reza have included that feature in their list for the future, and knowing Reza, we are sure they'll find a way to make it happen. Automobilista 2 works very well with Linux using Proton, and we've been told even the graphics look excellent. So this is what you get and don't get with Automobilista 2. Automobilista 2 has great and detailed physics, and in the meantime any glitches there were on the force feedback have been reduced to a minimum. Although not in my preferred style, my problem, nor theirs, the graphics are very good, the VR support excellent, and therefore the immersion superb. Yes, we count the studio as a pro. Automobilista 2 is still rough on the edges, but Reza has a good track record for development in the long run, and the work they've already done with this sim speaks for itself. They are not in for the money, they are as crazy as we all are about sim racing. Not only do we get dynamic, historic and real-time weather, but because Automobilista 2 shares and improves on the code of Project Cars 2, the way it deals with wet conditions is good and may become excellent. The price is okay, and while we of course went and bought the sim and the Seasons Pass even before Automobilista 2 was on early access, we understand buying both might look daunting. You may want to wait until there's a sale and you can buy the bundle of both for a little bit over €80, as has happened in the past. All manner of series and tracks, especially considering you get a ton of South American tracks nobody else has, plus the tracks almost everybody else has, plus some Australian ones. Yes, there are mods, but there are few. Even if their quality is good to very good, the fact that Automobilista 2 does not support mods makes every mod a hack that Reza will not take care of when changing things in the sim. We understand their position in this matter, but we don't share it. If you're a fan of endurance racing, you may want to go somewhere else to do those races, at least if you want to race with a buddy. While the number of Automobilista 2 users is growing, it's still quite small and a niche within the sim racing niche. We hope and expect it to grow, but it has grown very slowly in the past. As we said, sometimes there's only one car in a series comprised of many more. Check a list of cars before you buy if that could be an issue for you. Okay, the last one's a pet peeve of mine. I loved to race stadium super trucks in the first Automobilista and was looking forward to racing them in VR with better force feedback. But as for now, they're nowhere to be seen. Automobilista 2 is yet another fine entry in the list of racing sims in what I would call our golden age, and it's aging quite well, propelled by an indie studio that, while not losing sight of the economics of it, has the wish to push always a little further, go that extra mile. You don't have to go anywhere to get a heavy dose of the joy of sim racing. Check the playlist to the left or the video to the right. Until next time, save fuel, collect pickup, and we'll see each other on the podium.